Bendiciones. When things fall apart. This is part 16, Servants of Peace, on page 102. The first time I meditated with Trungpa Rinpoche students was in 1972. He hadn't been in North America for long, and his scene, as we used to call it, was just beginning to evolve. In one corner of the room, a man had propped himself up on 3 round cushions, and every 5 or 10 minutes they'd all come crashing down. Then he'd set up his cushions again and continue. Another student kept jumping up and running out of the room crying. She did that for about 5 times in a 1 hour sitting. When we began walking meditation, there were as many different eccentric styles as there were people. One person would bend deeply at the knee and sort of flat upward on each step. Someone else was walking backwards. The whole thing was totally entertaining and totally distracting. Not long after that, Rinpoche slowly began to introduce a standard meditation room form, and things settled down considerably. What we discipline is not our badness or our wrongness. What we discipline is any form of potential escape from reality. In other words, discipline allows us to be right here and connect with the richness of the moment. What makes this discipline free from severity is prajna. It's not the same as being told not to enjoy anything pleasurable or to control ourselves at any cost. Instead, this journey of discipline provides the encouragement that allows us to let go. It's a sort of undoing process that supports us in going against the grain of our painful habitual patterns. At the outer level, we could think of discipline as a structure, like a 30-minute meditation period or a 2-hour class on Dharma. Probably the best example is the meditation technique. We sit down in a certain position and are as faithful to the technique as possible. We simply put light attention on our out breath over and over through mood swings, through memories, through drama and boredom. This simple repetitive process is like inviting the basic richness into our lives. So we follow this instruction just as centuries of meditators have done before. Within this structure, we proceed with compassion. So on the inner level, the discipline is to return to gentleness, to honesty, to letting go. At the inner level, the discipline is to find the balance between not too tight and not too loose, between not too laid back and not too rigid. Discipline provides the support to slow down enough and be present enough so that we can live our lives without making a big mess. It provides the encouragement to step further into groundlessness. The power of paramita, of patience, is that it is an antidote to anger, a way to learn to love and care for whatever we meet on the path. By patience, we do not mean enduring, grin and bear it. In any situation, instead of reacting suddenly, we could chew it, smell it, look at it, and open ourselves up to seeing what's there. The opposite of patience is aggression. The desire to jump and move, to push against our lives, to try to fill up space. The journey of patience involves relaxing, opening to what's happening, experiencing a sense of wonder. A friend told me how in her childhood, her grandmother, who was part Cherokee, took her and her brother on walks to see animals. Her grandmother said, "If you sit still, you'll see something. If you're very quiet, you'll hear something." She never used the word patience, but that is what they learned. One of the best ways to practice patience is to do Tonglen. When we want to make a sudden move, when we start to speed through life, when we feel we must have resolution, when someone yells at us and we feel insulted, we want to yell back or get even. We want to put our poison. Instead, we can connect with basic human restlessness. Wait, let me reread that. Okay. We want to put our position. Let me start a little bit up more. When someone yells at us and we feel insulted, we want to yell back or get even. We want to put our poison. Instead, we can connect with basic human restlessness, basic human. I'm getting a little thrown off because it says instead. Okay, so someone insults us and we want to yell back or get even. We want to put our poison, but instead we can connect with basic human restlessness, basic human aggression by practicing Tonglen for all beings. Why do they say instead? That doesn't make sense to me. It says instead, we can connect with basic human restlessness, basic human aggression by practicing Tonglen for all beings. That makes sense. I feel like it shouldn't be instead. Then we can send out a sense of space, which further slows things down. Sitting there, standing there, we can allow the space for the usual habitual thing not to happen. Our words and actions might be quite different because we allowed ourselves time to touch and taste and see the situation first. Like other paramitas, exertion has a journey quality, a process quality. When we begin to practice exertion, we see that sometimes we can do it and sometimes we can't. The question becomes, how do we connect with inspiration? How do we connect with the spark and joy that's available in every moment? Exertion is not like pushing ourselves. It's not a project to complete or a race to have to win. It's like a waking up on a cold, snowy day in a mountain cabin, ready to go for a walk, but knowing that first you have to get out of bed and make a fire. You'd rather stay in the cozy bed, but you jump out and make the fire because the brightness of the day in front of you is bigger than staying in bed. The more we connect with the bigger perspective, the more we connect with the energetic joy. Exertion is touching into our appetite for enlightenment. It allows us to act, to give, to work appreciatively with whatever comes our way. If we really knew how unhappy it was making the whole planet, that we all try to avoid pain and seek pleasure. How that makes us so miserable and cutting us off from our own basic heart and our own basic intelligence. Then we would practice meditation as if our hair were on fire. We would practice as if a big snake had just landed in our lap. There wouldn't be any question of thinking we had a lot of time and we could do this later. Because prajna, these actions, become the means of shedding our defenses. Every time we give, every time we practice discipline, patience, or exertion, it's like putting down a heavy burden. The paramita of meditation allows us to continue this journey. It is the basis for an enlightened society that is not based on winning and losing, loss and gain. When we sit down to meditate, we can connect with something unconditional, a state of mind, a basic environment that does not grasp or reject anything. Meditation is probably the only activity that does not add to the picture. Meditation is probably the only activity that doesn't add anything to the picture. Everything is allowed to come and go without further embellishment. Meditation is a totally nonviolent, non-aggressive occupation, not filling the space, allowing for the possibility of connecting with unconditional openness. This provides the basis for real change. You might say this is setting ourselves a task that is almost impossible. Maybe that is true. But on the other hand, the more we sit with the impossibility, the more we find it's always possible after all. When we cling to thoughts and memories, we are clinging to what cannot be grasped. When we touch these phantoms and let them go, we may discover a space, a break in the chatter, a glimpse of open sky. This is our birthright, the wisdom which we were born, the vast unfolding display of primordial richness, primordial openness, primordial wisdom itself. All that is necessary then is to rest undistractedly in the immediate present, in this very instant in time. And if we become drawn away by thoughts, by longings, by hopes and fears, again and again, we can return to the present moment. We are here, we are carried off as if by the wind, and as if by the wind, we are brought back. When one thought has ended and another has not begun, we can rest in that space. We train in returning to that unchanging heart of this very moment. All compassion and all inspiration come from that. The sixth paramita is prajna, that which turns all actions into gold. It is said that the other five paramatas could give us reference points, but prajna cuts through the whole thing. Prajna makes us homeless. We have no place to dwell on anything. Because of this, we can finally relax. No more fighting, no more biting, no more taking sides. Sometimes we feel tremendous longing for our old habits. When we work with generosity, we see our nostalgia for wanting to hold on. When we work for discipline, we see our nostalgia for wanting to zone out and not relate at all. And we work with patience. We discover our longing to speed. When we practice exertion, we realize our laziness. With meditation, we see our endless discursiveness and restlessness and our attitude of couldn't care less. So we simply let that nostalgia be and know that all human beings are going to feel like that. There's a place for nostalgia, just as there's a place for everything on this path. Year after year, we just keep taking off the armor and stepping further into groundlessness. This is the training of the Bodhisattva, the training of the servants of peace. The world needs people who are trained like this. Bodhisattva politicians, Bodhisattva police, Bodhisattva parents, Bodhisattva bus drivers, Bodhisattvas at the bank and the grocery store. In all levels of society, we are needed. We are needed to transform our minds and actions for the sake of other people and for the sake of the world.